So once you complete Mission 15, the game actually gives you a choice of which route you want to take your platoon on. You can either join A Troop, though, which basically is what we're going to be doing, or the B Troop, which goes through a set of new areas that we will not be seeing for a couple videos. Yeah.
Wouldn't want to make things too exciting now, would we?
Well, yeah. Well, that and, like, if we were to go the B route, it would jump us straight to Mission 18, so I'm still going through these in, like, their intended numerical order, as it were.
Ah, fair enough.
So yeah, we're back at this little canyon with the underground facility.
We had that really horrible surprise with the Super Mech.
Oh yeah.
At least it was compared to us at the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the 3rd gen linear railgun that we technically already used, like, back at the end of the last campaign, funny enough, but never mind that. Again, these briefings are written in a way that they don't expect you to have access to stuff like the Quasar the first time through.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though this is the same environment, and we're essentially going up to the entrance of the facility, the means of which we're doing this are a bit different in that, A, we do not have our squad mates with us because this is a stealth mission. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute, just how absurd the idea of a stealth mission with giant stompy robots really is.
Did they wear bunny slippers?
If only. Could you
We're
imagine
sneaking! Clang, 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 clang!
Could you imagine the size of those things? So yeah, the idea is that we have to sneak through the valley, eliminating any enemies we come across before they can radio in for reinforcements, go up to the facility's entrance, set explosives on it, and then blow it up, and then we run back outside of the canyon to rendezvous, and then can, like, go back in with reinforcements for a final assault.
I'm sure nothing bad can happen as a result of all this.
Yeah. Now, because of how important it is not only for stealth, but also for assuring quick, efficient destruction of the enemies we come across, we're using the Prominence again just because, it has the railgun. That kind of says everything you need to know.
Yes, railgun's typically one of the stealthiest weapons in any mech game.
Yeah.
Right next to the mortar and the air fuel bomb.
The also important thing to note with this, especially as part of, like, planning your loadout, is that because of the stealth nature of this mission, you cannot call in Wagon Master for supplies. So it's like, you better make sure you have all the ammo and fuel you need to go with, like, whatever route you're going on.
Okay, that does add an interesting wrinkle to things.
Yeah. So, the thing is, especially with when this game came out, in 2002, the idea of the arbitrary stealth sequence in video games, I think, is one that pretty much everyone looks back on, or even at the time always looked at going, yeah, this is an awful idea, why would you do this?
Yep.
This, admittedly, is not nearly as bad because, despite the condition that you're supposed to be stealthy in this, I have not actually failed. I've not actually hit the mission fail condition once. Because I mentioned that during the briefing they say that, like, you have any enemies you come across, you have to kill them before they can call reinforcements. And after having gone through this mission a couple times, I think what ends up making this almost impossible to fail is that, if you recall with the 2nd gen units and up, they have, like, special properties to them that the 1st gen units don't have, like they have override, they have the FSS system. They also have stealth, which I described was, all it really does is that it makes it so that that unit does not show up on radar. So that enemies still have to create visual contact in order to actually know that they're there. It's because of the Prominence being, a 2nd gen unit that has stealth capability. I think that's basically what gives you the amount of time necessary to, like, have an engagement with a single enemy and destroy them before they can even like escape or like call in other enemies, because I'm sure once an enemy sees you, there's basically an invisible timer of sorts that counts down until it goes, okay, you've been fighting this thing for too long, everyone clearly knows now that there's an intruder.
So if you're fighting everyone here one by one essentially, then this really is a sneak up behind them and slit their throats mission.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. That's impressive in a really painful way.
Yeah.
Because those missions always suck anyway.
Well, again, it's like, it's the sort of thing where like vision cones is something that you don't have to worry about or anything. Like, you can just clearly like walk up in front of these guys and just start wailing on them, and as long as you like kill them in X amount of seconds, it's all good. And it's because of that, it's like the fortunate thing with this mission is that the enemy placements are pretty much exactly the same as they were in the Mission 6 version of the first campaign. So you can essentially like run pretty much the exact route that you find most efficient in that version, and it will work just as well here because they're always spaced out far enough away that it is pretty much guaranteed to be a one-on-one engagement.
So the game's kind of hoping you have a short and long memory.
Yeah. I mean, these missions are pretty short once you, like, know the gist of them. Also, shoutouts to more Armored Trooper Votom's music. as the song playing in the background is the instrumental for the opening theme of Shining Heresy, one of the OVAs for the series.
Yeah, I said before that other than Armor Hunter Mellow Link, which is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, you need to rectify that.
Yeah.
My knowledge of Votoms is a big blind spot for me. It's one of those series I never really got into. Not for lack of trying, just never got around to it, really.
Yeah, there's a lot, and like, fortunately, I do feel like I've watched the main series and pretty much all of like the OVA like side series that have to do, like with the main character Kiriko, and I've definitely not regretted it. I think they're all like at a baseline good quality that it's worth like seeing the whole saga.
Yeah, it's a show that I've never, or a series in general, I've never really heard anyone say a bad word about, you know? Not like, certain sections of Gundam, which easily spring to mind. But,
yeah.
Like, the worst I've
Gundam
heard...
is basically the anime Star Trek.
Yeah. But the worst I've heard anyone say is that, well, some bits aren't as good as others. They're still good, it's just, by comparison, they're a bit lacking. Seems to be a very above average series across the board.
Yeah, like above average is like pretty much like the baseline for any amount of for any of these like sub-series and Votons. If there's one thing I can recommend as far as like how to go about watching it is to like obviously watch the original show first, because like that's really like it's obviously designed in a way that is supposed to introduce you to like the characters, and as well as like the way the plot develops. There are certain aspects about like where the plot goes that once you have that knowledge, all of the OVAs made after it, even the ones that are made to be chronologically before the TV show, are made with that like plot knowledge in mind. So the way I'd actually recommend watching is to like basically a mix, like I said, watch the TV anime first, but then watch the OVAs not in their release order, but chronological order. It at least helps in some cases that like when the OVAs were coming out, like there are certain like stretches of them where like they take place in like very specific time frames that do work out like in a somewhat timeline sensical order.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, but like the way that I watched it, where like I basically did the show and then the OVAs like in the order they would happen in the timeline, was like it made enough sense.
So not exactly like Back to Gundam, where you can essentially just jump in at any point and enjoy it. essentially.
Yeah, especially when it's like, yeah, because Universal Century Timeline is really just only a fraction of what that entire meta series is now.
Yeah, and a lot of the UC stuff is really interconnected, especially like seeing as how they seem to be going back to it more and more these days with the OVAs and the spin-offs and so forth.
Yeah, with potentially missing some of the finer details and even the overall point of what Tomino was trying to get at with those original shows.
Okay, but shut
Look,
up. There's
sidelining Unicorn.
Yeah, Unicorn's one of those series that just never seems to end.
Ugh.
Like every 18 months, oh, we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's like not bad considering it was originally, what, 6 episodes?
Yeah.
Black Widow.
This is X-Ray 1. Black Widow, do you copy?
This is Black Widow. I hear you loud and clear. There's not much time, so I'll make this nice and short. I've set up light beacons on the locations where I want you to set the bombs. I'll be activating the beacons. All you need to do is just set the bombs and get out of there. Piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
I copy.
It really is.
He is worryingly cheerful.
Yeah.
I
you,
would
you
not,
can never trust these Black Ops types, honestly.
I would never trust anyone that cheerful to be setting off demolition equipment.
So yeah, this is an objective that requires us to use our manipulator arm, and as you can see, like when we pull it out, it automatically has a bomb attached to the arm that you then place onto the specified points. For the record, the bombs only show up on your arm once you reach this point and actually make contact with Black Widow. If you just pull out the arm at any other point, it'll just be how it normally is. And in order to put a new bomb on it, you have to put away the manipulator arm, then press the button again to bring it back out.
Just reaching into an armored trench coat to bring out another bomb.
Pretty much. I do like this objective though, because it's like... Because for the most part, the only things that we've used our manipulator arm for at this point have been to either pick up like specific objects or to activate door switches, the latter being way more common, especially with facilities like this. So I appreciate that they were able to find like a third use for it where it's like, okay, plant explosive charges.
4th use, because we also stole a cow one time.
Well, yeah, but I still technically count that as being part of like the first, you know, because we were picking stuff up. I consider the cow a vital mission objective, like those 3 containers.
It's like every time I see the little grabby hand, I keep thinking of Scary Movie. Take my hand, it's my strong hand.
Oh god. So now the next part we have to do is back up. And one thing to note is that this is obviously this is way more obvious when you're looking at this through like the controller cam footage, but when you are in range of the bombs, the third function key, F3, will flash, and the idea is that you have to get as far away as you can from the bombs before the button stops flashing, because when it doesn't flash, it means you're out of range. So you have to get as far enough away that you can then press the button to send the signal to the explosives to blow up, and then we just run our asses out of here.
So can you sort of keep going until you're out of range, and then sort of just shuffle back into range, or is it you have to do it before the button stops flashing?
Yeah, you can shuffle back into range, which is what I was doing. Like I got to a point where I was backing up that like the button stopped flashing, so I used that as my time to turn around, back up slightly, and then just punch into override.
Because I think we've all played way too many games where if you just go slightly, like 1 millimeter over the line, game over.
Yeah. Yeah, fortunately it's not that punishing. It's just like, it really is the sort of thing where like, it's like a remote, you know, like control device where like you need to not only point it at the receiver, but you also need to make sure it's not far away too far away that the signal can't reach. It's just that same kind of principle. But yeah, that's pretty much the mission. It's not a bad remix of the whole Mission 6 version, especially because of how what I described with the stealth requirements, that it's really not that punishing in the slightest, unless of course you decide to go in with like a first gen unit like an idiot, or some daring badass who thinks, yeah, I could totally take on the entire game with just the decider.
I kind of feel like they maybe got these two the wrong way round, because this one would have been a good introduction to stealth, for example. And then when you're redoing it, you're like, oh, okay, this is fine, just go in, all guns blaze. Oh, poopy, there's a big guy there.
I could see that, but I think if they were to go that route, they would have had to replace the Geralags with like a more powerful unit.
Yeah.
Like, I think they would have had to have used like the Regal Dresses, which are like another set of like third gen units. Yeah, because of this being in the second campaign, and like the Geralags were already like, they were big powerhouses like in the latter half of the first campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously, as you can expect, because of this area, the next mission is more or less. In fact, I'm gonna actually say outright, it is exactly the goddamn same as Mission 7. It's just gonna go a lot longer for reasons that I was not prepared for, and you will see why. Yeah, it's the one time where I personally regretted the order in which I decided to show off the different VT units in this game.
Oh boy.